There's a trick that costs $0. It uses something you throw away every morning, something that sits in your trash can right now, and according to millions of gardeners, it will stop the most devastating fruit disorder on Earth, blossom end rot. The dark, sunken, rotting bottom of a tomato that ruins everything. Peppers, squash, watermelons, eggplant. It can destroy more than 50% of a harvest in a single season, and the internet says one thing will fix it. Eggshells. Crush them, bury them, sprinkle them around your plants. Problem solved. The calcium gets into the soil, the plant drinks it up, and blossom end rot disappears forever, except it doesn't. Because that trick, the one shared on every gardening blog, every Facebook group, every YouTube thumbnail with a picture of a hand holding a crushed eggshell over a tomato plant, that trick is based on a lie. A lie that has been repeated so many times, it became gospel. A lie that a $23 billion fertilizer industry has absolutely no reason to correct. And the real fix, the one that actually works, it costs nothing. It requires no product, no supplement, no purchase. And they have never told you about it. Until now. Let's start with what everyone believes. Blossom end rot is caused by a calcium deficiency. The tomato doesn't have enough calcium, so you add calcium. Eggshells are 95% calcium carbonate. One eggshell contains roughly 2 grams of calcium, so you save your breakfast scraps, crush them up, toss them in the planting hole, and wait for science to do its thing. This advice appears on every major gardening site. It is repeated in books, it is shared by influencers, it is printed on the back of seed packets, and it is wrong. Here's what actually happens when you bury an eggshell in your garden. Nothing. A 6-year decomposition study, documented and photographed every single year, found that whole eggshells buried in garden soil remained almost completely intact after 3 years. After 5 years, they were still recognizable. The calcium carbonate in an eggshell is nearly insoluble in water. It does not dissolve. It does not break down. It does not release plant-available calcium in any meaningful time frame. Finely ground eggshell powder fares slightly better, but even crushed fragments need 1 to 3 years to decompose to the molecular level where calcium can enter soil solution and be absorbed by a root. Your tomato needs calcium right now, today, this afternoon. And the eggshell you buried in May is still an eggshell in September. This is not opinion. This is chemistry. Now here is where the vault opens. Because the deeper truth is even more inconvenient than slow decomposition. The real cause of blossom end rot is not a lack of calcium in the soil. In the vast majority of gardens, there's already more than enough calcium sitting in the ground. Soil tests confirm this again and again. The problem is not supply, the problem is delivery. Calcium moves through a plant in one way and one way only, through the xylem, carried by water, pulled upward by transpiration, the process where water evaporates from the leaves and creates a vacuum that draws moisture up through the roots, through the stem, through the branches, and into the developing fruit. If that water flow stops, calcium stops. And here's the part that should make every gardener pause. Research from multiple university extension programs has shown that a water stress event as short as 30 minutes can interrupt calcium transport long enough to trigger blossom end rot in a susceptible fruit. 30 minutes, a hot afternoon, a skipped watering, a cracked soil surface, that is all it takes. The disorder is not about what is in your soil, it is about what reaches the fruit. And the only vehicle that carries calcium to the fruit is water. Consistent, uninterrupted water. This means that every eggshell, every Tums tablet buried at the base of a plant, every bottle of CalMag spray, every calcium foliar mist, none of these address the actual mechanism. A 2023 study published in the journal Horticulturae tested multiple commercial calcium spray preparations on tomato plants and found that none of them were effective in increasing calcium content in the fruit or preventing blossom end rot. Clemson University's Home and Garden Information Center confirmed it directly. The skin of a tomato fruit cannot absorb foliar-applied calcium. The calcium never gets inside. You are spraying a locked door. So if eggshells don't work, and calcium sprays don't work, and Tums tablets don't work, why does every product on the shelf still say prevents blossom end rot? Follow the money. The global agricultural calcium market is valued at $23.6 billion in 2025, projected to reach $29.6 billion by 2030. The broader fertilizer industry sits at $230 billion. CalMag supplements alone line the shelves of every garden center in America. Bottles priced at $12, $18, $25. Products marketed specifically for tomatoes and peppers. Labels that say, stops blossom end rot, in bold letters. They're selling you a solution to the wrong problem. Because here's what they cannot bottle. They cannot bottle consistent watering. They cannot bottle mulch. They cannot bottle a drip irrigation timer set to run for 20 minutes every morning. Those things generate zero revenue, zero repeat purchases, zero shelf space. But a plastic bottle of calcium chloride with a picture of a perfect red tomato on the label, That generates billions. And the eggshell myth? It doesn't threaten the industry. It reinforces it. Because when the eggshell fails, and it will fail, the gardener walks into the garden center and buys the spray. And when the spray fails, they buy a different spray. And the cycle continues. The real fix has been free all along. Here is what actually prevents blossom end rot. And it will cost you exactly $0. The first fix is water consistency. Not more water, consistent water. The goal is to maintain even soil moisture around the root zone of your fruiting plants, so that the transpiration stream, the only highway that delivers calcium to the fruit, never stops moving. Deep watering 2 to 3 times per week is better than shallow watering every day. The soil should stay moist, never waterlogged, never bone dry. If you water with a hose, water at the base. Slowly, let it soak in. If you use drip irrigation, set a timer, eliminate the guesswork. The second fix is mulch. 2 to 4 inches of organic mulch, straw, wood chips, shredded leaves, spread around the base of each plant after the soil has warmed. Mulch does 3 things. It slows evaporation, so the soil holds moisture longer between waterings. It moderates soil temperature, so roots don't cook in summer heat. And it reduces the moisture swings that are the single biggest trigger of blossom end rot. Research from Michigan State University, Purdue University, NC State, and the University of Connecticut all confirm the same thing. Mulching is one of the most effective interventions against blossom end rot, and it costs nothing if you use leaves from your own yard. The third fix is root protection. Do not cultivate or hoe near the base of your tomato plants. Root damage reduces the plant's ability to take up water. Reduced water uptake means reduced calcium transport. Many cases of mid-season blossom end rot are triggered not by drought, but by a gardener accidentally severing shallow feeder roots while weeding. That is it. Water. Mulch. Leave the roots alone. No product, no purchase, no subscription. Now some of you are already typing in the comments, what about the eggshell and vinegar trick? The DIY water-soluble calcium? And this one actually has some chemistry behind it. When you dissolve crushed eggshells in vinegar, acetic acid, the calcium carbonate reacts with the acid and forms calcium acetate, which is water-soluble. You pour that solution around the base of the plant, and technically, yes, you are delivering plant-available calcium to the soil. But remember what we said earlier. In most gardens, the soil already has enough calcium. The bottleneck is not the soil. The bottleneck is water transport. If you are watering inconsistently, adding more calcium to the soil does nothing. It just sits there, surrounded by more calcium that was already sitting there. The vinegar trick is real chemistry applied to the wrong problem. It is like putting premium fuel in a car with flat tires. The fuel is fine. The tires are the issue. Fix the water, the calcium takes care of itself. Section 6. The vault closes. The 16. So let's put this whole story together. There's a disorder that affects tomatoes, peppers, squash, watermelons, and eggplant. It can destroy more than 50% of a harvest. It has been blamed on a calcium deficiency in the soil for decades. And an entire industry has grown up around that blame, selling sprays, supplements, tablets, and foliar solutions worth billions of dollars a year. But the science says something different. The science says most soils already have the calcium. The science says eggshells take years to decompose and release nothing in the time frame a growing tomato needs. The science says foliar calcium sprays cannot penetrate the skin of a developing fruit. The science says water stress as brief as 30 minutes can trigger the disorder even when the soil is loaded with calcium. And the science says the fix is free. Consistent moisture, organic mulch, undisturbed roots. That is the eggshell trick they never told you. Not because it was hidden, but because you cannot sell water from a garden hose in a $12 bottle. If this vault opens something for you today, share this video with one gardener who is still burying eggshells at the base of their tomato plants. Subscribe, hit the bell, because there are more vaults to open, and the next one is already waiting.